It was a chill and foggy night in the chapter 1 is called, sorry, I've had Betrayal of Dragons here, is called Your Mother Said Not to Leave the Hideout. It was a chill and foggy night in the murderous mountain. A good night for treachery. Hiccup should not have been out in the forests of the murderous mountains in these times of war. If the dragons of the Dragon Rebellion caught even one hint that there were humans moving in the burnt trees of those many misty mountain passes, they would hunt them down and kill them. But somewhere deep in that forest, far away from any age, a terrified human voice was shrieking, "Help! Help! Help!" A little party of brave but foolish humans and dragons had set out to offer their assistance. That is Hiccup saying, "Oh, my mother said not to leave the hideout." Hiccup Fenders Habit the Third was sitting on the back of a deadly shadow dragon, flying so low over the treetops that every now and then the slow downward beats of the dragon's wings brushed the scorched topmost twigs of the trees. Deadly shadow dragons are chameleons, and so this beautiful three-headed dragon was exactly the colour of the midnight sky, complete with stars slowly shifting across its shining sides. Hiccup's knees were trembling with the effort to keep a grip on the saddle. Hiccup was a very ordinary-looking boy for one so sought after by so many people. A ragged little string bean of a teenager, his farsuit torn to ribbons, his face bruised and scratched with wild hair and scared eyes of one who had been hunted by too many for too long. War and exile had turned him into a scarecrow of a boy. Poor Hiccup. His sword was drawn, his ears ringing from the piercing coldness of the biting wind, and he was peering over the deadly shadow's wing as it flew. His heart beating horribly quick at the blackened wasteland down below. He was trying to work out where that piteously shrieking voice was coming from. "Help! Help! Help!" screamed the voice, and now they could see the little flaring light of a campfire burning deep in the woods, flickering on and off like a firefly, or the flickering of your curiosity. No wonder Hiccup was nervous, for this was the scorched, fire-ravaged territory of the Dragon Furious and the Dragon Rebellion. The Dragon Furious was hunting more than anything for Hiccup, and Hiccup alone. Oh, there's Hiccup. On the back of the three-headed deadly shadow dragon, that's Windwalker. He's a riding dragon, and that is a Toothless up there. Oh, and besides Hiccup, it's Fishlegs and Kamikaze. You can just about see them in there. Fishlegs and Kamikaze as well. The Dragon Furious had made a solemn pledge to turn this world to ashes looking for him. He had sworn that no rock, no island, no cave, no cliff would be a safe hiding place for the boy. The results of the Dragon Furious's crazed, lunatic hunt lay in the melted, mutilated landscape around them, the ragged corpses of the trees, the burnt remains, the smashed up cliffs. "Oh, for thoughts sake," whispered Hiccup's best friend Fishlegs, who was sitting beside him on the deadly shadow. Fishlegs was, if anything, even skinnier and more ragged than Hiccup. His smashed glasses were perched perilously on the end of his nose. "We could be torn to pieces by the Dragon Rebellion. Your mother said on no account to leave the hideout," protested Fishlegs. "We just need to stay in hiding for 2 more days until Doomsday Eve, when we meet the rest of the dragon markers at the Singing Sands of the Ferryman's Gift." Okay, so he's meeting up with the dragon markers are Stoic and Valhalla armour. "That's all we need to do. Your mother said she would take care of everything else." "But what if it were one of us all alone out there in that forest?" Hiccup argued. "Oh, he's so great, Hiccup." "You're right," said Fishlegs, getting a good trembling grip on his sword. "I know you're right. It's just that it's so scary." Hiccup and his 2 human friends were as white as grubs, having not seen daylight for a month. This was the first time they'd been outside in all that time. Their dragons had taken it in turn to venture out and collect food and firewood. Now the 10 companions of the Dragon Mark had crept out of the safety of their hideout at the sound of that distant, terrified human voice. As they swooped nearer to the little light, the desperate sound of the human voice came closer and closer, and it was impossible not to respond to the fear in that voice. What could be happening to that human to make them scream like that? "Help! Help! Help!" A human calling out to another human cannot be ignored. Hiccup swallowed, looking down at the trees below him. This was once a living, breathing forest. Now it was as still as death, scorched and burnt and wasted by the intensity of the Dragon Furious's anger. The 3rd human on the deadly shadow's back was a small, fierce little bug burglar called Kamikaze. Her hair looked like a family of overexcitable squirrels had been having an all-night party in the back of it. Sorry. Oh, go on, fish legs, whispered Kamikaze, whistling happily. You know we have to do this. Besides, I feel like a bit of exercise. We've been cooped up in that hideout for way too long. Laughed Kamikaze. Frankly, at this point, Kamikaze had grown so fed up that if Hiccup had suggested hang gliding off the toe tailends of the Dragon Furious, she'd have been up for it. A bit of exercise? Blasted fish legs, a bit of exercise? This is not some kind of Viking version of Keep Fit. The three little hunting dragons and one riding dragon were flying just above the deadly shadow. Two of the hunting dragon belonged to Hiccup, a very old one, the wooden Rosensfang, with wings all tattered and torn, and a very young one, Toothless, the smallest, naughtiest little hunting dragon in the archipelago. That's Toothless. The third hunting dragon was a golden chameleon mood dragon called Stormfly, and she belonged to Kamikaze. The riding dragon, the Windwalker, was a long-limbed, gentle, raggedy creature. He wagged his flag of a tail, hopefully waiting for everyone else to decide what to do. Let's go home, wept Toothless. In Dragonese, the language that dragons speak to one another, only Hiccup could understand him, for Hiccup was a dragon whisperer. Toothless's huge green-gauge eyes were bulging wide in terror. He didn't really care about stranger humans who didn't belong to him. He just wanted to go home, but he didn't want to admit it in front of Stormfly. Toothless was rather in love with Stormfly, so tended to show off in her company. It's too chilly to be outside, wept Toothless. Toothless had a stammer, but this was even more pronounced because he was shivering so hard. Well, I told you to wear your coat, Toothless, didn't I? Hiccup commented. I told you and told you, but you said, oh no, you'd be too hot in your coat. That coat is oh, what is it? Hang on, I can't quite read. Hang on. Oh, it's sissy, Toothless objected. Actually, Toothless is not cold after all. Toothless very warm, but maybe a little too warm. Toothless needs to go back into the hideout so he can cool down. The too warm Toothless was in fact so cold he had turned almost blue. It's not because Toothless is scared of the Dragon Rebellion dragons. I know about that, by the way, because my children were always saying that they were not cold when they were turning blue. Anyway, it's not because Toothless scared of the Dragon Rebellion dragons, huffed Toothless. No. Toothless can fight Dragon Rebellion dragons with one wing tied behind his back. Yes, I can, Stormfly, he bragged. Can't I, Windfang? And Toothless once bit the Dragon Furious so hard on the bottom that he cried. But Toothless a little bit hot, and he's got iffy wings, look. Toothless had at his wing and made the end of it go all floppy, flippy, floppy, flippy, floppy, cooed Toothless in a tone of tender self-consolation. Yes, I've got a kind of tickly feeling in the back of my throat myself, hissed Stormfly, batting her naughty eyes. Stormfly spoke in Norse, for she was one of the very rare dragons who could speak the human tongue. Maybe we should go back and have a little lie down. Maybe I should go back and get Toothless's coat. I think you look quite cute in your coat, Toothless. Oh, do you? Said Toothless, rethinking the coat. Nonsense. You'll feel all the better for some nice night air, scolded Kamikaze. It's probably indigestion in your case, Stormfly. You've got to stop swallowing those squirrels whole. Indigestion? Huffed Stormfly. Outraged, her beautiful serpentine body was currently purple, the colour she turned when she lied, but as she grew angry, a haze of black mist fanned outwards from her heart like a cloud of ink slowly spreading through the water. Indigestion? I'm an artist, a free spirit. I go where the wind takes me. Free spirits do not get indigestion. I think I should warn you that this might be a trap set for you by Alvin and his followers, the Alvin's men, warned the Wadensfang in a wheezy whisper. The Wadensfang was a wrinkled brown leafer for dragon, that's the Wadensfang, who looked like a decrepit, droopy little dachshund that had shriveled like a raisin. His ears had gone purple and was shivering, which was what always happened when danger was near. Take the advice of my 1,000 years, Hiccup, said Windfang. That light is behaving very strangely if it is a campfire. I've never seen a campfire that moves, not in 1,000 years, I haven't. The Windfang was right. The campfire was moving slowly down the length of the valley. Sometimes it was extinguished entirely by the heavy, shifting fog, or snuffed out by the denseness of the thickets of trees. But then it would flicker into life again, slowly and steadily, just a little bit further down. Campfire that moved? Surely that was impossible. Human voices stopped shouting now. Somehow that was even more petrifying. petrifying. Had its owner been snuffed out and swallowed by whatever terrors might lurk in that still, scarred landscape? They were catching up with the light. It was bigger and brighter and stronger, and Hiccup could catch that distinctive smell of campfire in his nostrils. They were now following the river that wound its way like a sinister sleeping snake through the centre of the gorge. The river turned a corner, and there it was. A campfire burning on an island of ice that was moving swiftly in the current in the centre of the river. Lying on his front on the island of ice was a human, chained to a sleeping riding dragon, a hurricane, with scars and whip marks all along its side. Oh, look, there's the little raft of ice going down the river. Oh, what are these shapes? Who are these shapes on the edges of the riverbanks? Hiccup could see immediately why this human had been screaming, running along the riverbanks, flitting through the trees with the dark shapes of a gigantic pack of wolf fangs. The human must have been camping on some frozen lake upriver, and then the ice had broken up in the night and carried it on his little raft downstream, where his scent was picked up by wolf fangs. Wolf fangs were neutral dragons. Blackthorn, not part of the rebellion. They were wingless but persistent killers nonetheless. Some of them were already in the water, trying to climb onto the raft. Evil tongues hanging out, and the human was desperately knocking them back with his sword. Well, that explained why the human had been screaming. But why did he stop screaming? Why were those wolf fangs scrabbling to get on board that ice raft, pursuing their prey without howling, without making a sound? Oh, for Thor's sake, oh, for Thor's sake. The human had stopped screaming because there was something else camped out overnight along the river, lots of something elses that were still sleeping there, and these something elses were much worse than the wolf fangs. With a sort of horror, Hiccup realised that what he thought had been fallen tree trunks laying past the waterline in the rushes in the shallows weren't tree trunks at all. They were razor wings and tongue twisters, brain pickers and savages, some of the scariest dragon species of the Dragon Rebellion. And there weren't just a few of them either. There were Dragon Rebellion dragons submerged all along the riverbanks as far as the eye could see. All around in the shallows were the still sleeping panther-like shapes of the dragons, cooling their furnace-like bodies in the ice-cold currents in the river. A sickly, sulphurous, yellowy-green mist curled its way up from their bodies as the heat of their scales met the chill of the water. One huge savager was gnawing at the ragged remains of a gigantic tree in his sleep, a tree torn violently and entirely out of the ground, its poor, tender roots spilled out like a desecration. Another, a brain picker, was holding the pathetic remains of a bloodied human coat that Hiccup sincerely hoped that did not belong to a dragon marker. Their dark, sinister shapes oozed with menace and fear. Hiccup urged the deadly shadow downwards, trying to catch up with the poor terrified human on the ice raft, moving swiftly down the river below them. 3 pairs of human eyes and 7 pairs of dragon eyes squinted down through the mist to look at the human laid out full length on his stomach on the moving island of ice, bashing away at the noses of the wolffangs, trying to climb on board his raft and drag him under. It was a man, a young man who had lost hope that anyone would rescue him now, and you could see from his defeated, terrified face that he thought he was about to die. Hiccup caught his breath in shock as he recognised the human. It was not loud. Oh, it's not loud. Oh. Chapter 2 is called We Were Just Wondering Whose Side You Are On. I'll have to have chapter 2 tomorrow. It's lovely to be back reading these books, by the way.